Today, I'd like to welcome Heather Irvin, who's Director of Engagement for Regina's Globe Theatre. Heather, tell everybody a little bit about Globe Theatre and its relationship to the community in Regina.
Yeah, so the Globe Theatre is celebrating its 60th anniversary and has been storytelling and making magic for 60 years in southern Saskatchewan. We're situated in a historic um, stone building, a heritage building in downtown Regina, and we just came out of a 5-year, $50 million renovation, 68,000 square feet, which has been a really interesting time to be here at the Globe Theatre. But the Globe at its core has a mission to entertain, educate, and engage with community. And that's something we're really proud of, to be this catalyst for community engagement in downtown, and to share stories that are meaningful to the people who call Saskatchewan home.
So you mentioned, kind of your programming and the storytelling that you do. What type of stories are you telling? Are you telling domestic stories, international stories? How would you describe the type of seasons that the theater is putting on?
So the Globe is a regional theater, which means that we have a wide variety of programming. There are some theaters whose mission is just work by female playwrights or only Canadian playwrights. And we are fortunate in that we get to do a little bit of everything, appealing to the region that we're in. And so that provides a lot of opportunity. But at the core, we have an artistic director, Jennifer Brewin, who is in charge of all of the programming. She co-leads the institution with Osweave, our executive director. And at the core of all of the work Jennifer does, you'll see themes of community and what do we owe to each other emerge. And it's not that she programs to that theme necessarily, but those are the types of stories that rise to the forefront for us here, and I think that are meaningful to folks who live here. So we have a 5-show season, and we just finished our 25-26 season, and we're starting to the builds and designs and about to go into workshops for the shows in our 26-27 season. In 25-26, we had 5 productions. We started off with a modern Canadian play, Master Plan by Michael Healy, which looked at development and smart cities and the integration of public and private life and bureaucrats and government working alongside private for-profit companies, and what does that what sort of chaos does that create, and that unfolded on stage. And then we moved into our holiday show, which is directed by Judy Wenzel, written by Michael Shimada, another Canadian, but it was a adaptation of A Christmas Carol. We got to watch Scrooge and the ghosts travel around the stage in a really beautiful way. But Christmas is and the holiday season is a big tradition here at the Globe. So we see thousands and thousands and thousands of people come with their families. It's a generational memory that happens often. And then we went into, in the new year, a big blockbuster Disney musical, which ended up being the longest running show in Globe Theatre history, which was our production, the Globe Theatre's production of Disney's Frozen, which was pretty exciting. So that had appeal, obviously, to younger folks to see that Disney princess and that Disney magic unfold on stage. Then we welcomed Kevin Loring and Savage Society with Kevin's production of Little Red Warrior and His Lawyer, which was the centerpiece of our Spring Thaw Festival, which is a partnership with Gordon Tutus's theater in Saskatoon, and brings Indigenous theater makers together and celebrates the work here in our building, provides opportunities for workshopping, and bringing and expanding audiences for the Globe. And then the final show of the season was Arsenic and Old Lace by Joseph Kesslering, which was directed by Evelyn Perry, which was a sort of a modern fresh take on an old chestnut. So this sort of classic piece, a classic contemporary piece. But so we had some modern contemporary,
So
some classic contemporary, and musicals and everything in between.
you got a bit of everything to try and appeal to the theater going audience of your community. Um,
Hmm.
a couple you mentioned the kind of the theater in the round, and I think that fascinates me not only because of the renovations on the physical space and keeping that theater in the round, but also how difficult is it for you to reinterpret or adapt a production that was not designed originally for a theater in the round? That must be a challenge for your artistic directors and your directors.
Yeah, and the designers and our production team. So it's definitely an opportunity. It creates magic moments. In some cases, in for Frozen, for an example, we had to think back to theater magic. Most productions of Frozen across the world rely heavily on projection to make the snow magic. And so we partnered with Jillian Kiley directed that show, and she brought with Jennifer Brewin. They brought together the Old Trout Puppet Workshop out of Alberta, who've been making practical theater effects for 50 years. And so we went to a sort of this like old school practical magic making. So there were icicles that came out of the floorboards and out of the railings and down from the ceiling. And that was pretty exciting. Um, I think so. With the most recent renovation, the two big changes in the space were we now have a fully functioning catwalk as well as a trap room, which might be the deepest trap room in the country. It's 19 feet deep, so it's really deep. Our stage is quite small and intimate. It's only 20 feet by 20 feet. And the audience comes up and around it, so looking down in this amphitheater style. So what we lack for on sort of square footage, we make up for in height. So we have a really tall auditorium and this catwalk, as well as the opportunities for the trap room. So, and those are two new pieces that were developed as part of this renovation. So it really creates a lot of opportunity for theater magic making and the creativity of the designers. So to speak to that ingenuity of In the Round, I think the director has to have a really strong sense of the story and of space, and then assembles with our team, the design team that they want to work with, and who can understand the potential limitations of our space, but also the advantages of being in the round and what that does for storytelling. It creates, as I said, every production has to be unique, but it also creates really beautiful intimacy, which you always have intimacy in live theater, but specifically in our space with the audience at all angles, there isn't a sight line that can be forgotten. And the audience often feels like you're really immersed or and enmeshed in the storytelling on stage.
I know you talked about the renovation. I know there's been some fundraising and some capital campaigns that led to being able to afford such an expensive renovation. How intertwined is the theater and the physical space of the theater with the production? So are they kind of one and the same? Do people in Regina think of them as synonymously? Are they separate? Is the building space used for anything else other than the productions?
So since the renovation, all 68,000 square feet of our building, McCorkindale Place, has been renovated. So we have the Beauquest Theatre School, which runs year round. It has two permanent studios in our lower level, as well as our prop shops and green rooms and dressing rooms. We also have storage facilities for props, set, wardrobe, etc. As well as we have a whole second theater space, a black box space, which can be imagined into any configuration. So, and then we also have the rehearsal hall and administrative spaces. So the answer is that the whole space is a theater hub. It's a cultural hub now, which is pretty exciting. Our main stage theater, the theater in the round, is used almost exclusively by the Globe. So there is a synonymous feeling of when you think of the Globe Theater or you think of our productions, you think of that iconic in the round space. Because our season runs so long and we do have longer running productions, the there isn't a lot of opportunity for rental of that space or for lending of that space. We do try when possible to be good community partners. We had the YWCA did their annual fundraiser in our space this year. In between shows, it was really quick turnaround, exciting for everyone. And then our community theater space, the Black Box space, we do programming in that as well. And next year we'll see our first show as part of our main season in the Black Box. But the idea and the hope for that space is that it can be used more by the community as well. So rented and lent and used from everyone from dance companies to theater companies to corporations who want to think of an alternative for their retreats or their parties or their whatever. We've done fireside chats
Right.
for business improvement district and other things like that. So the building is very much it's purpose built to be a cultural hub and theater specifically. Before the renovation, there was retail space as well, and some of the space had been rented out, and we weren't using all 68,000 square feet, but now we are able to do that.
I'm I'm interested in your perspective on, you mentioned kind of the holiday show, but you also mentioned the production of Frozen, which would draw a lot of younger people in. How have you seen, we have 24 access to movies and television, video games and all the streaming services. How have you seen the role of theater in your community evolve and change over the last few years?
Well, we have a unique perspective because we've also been out of our building and adapting. But I will say that audiences have been returning to theater in a really exciting and intentional way. We had 50,000 people through our doors this year to see live theater, and I think that means something. We're a city of 238,000 or just under 250,000 people, and we're seeing audiences come to live performance in such huge numbers, and to me, that speaks to an appetite for that immediacy and that intimacy, that the art form of theater provides streaming service doesn't. I think that there's a world for both of those mediums. I don't think it's one or the other. I love a good bingeable show myself. I've got probably too many subscriptions, but I think there's something really interesting. Our artistic director Jennifer speaks a lot to theater's still one of the only places in the world or in the, geopolitical sphere where everyone from any walk of life can come. And for those 90 minutes that you're alone in the dark, we're all equal and experiencing the same thing. And it only happens that way once. And for those 90 minutes, it's live. And the next day is different, And when I'm talking to young audiences and it's their first time at the theater, we explain about the interaction and the sort of unspoken agreement between the artists and the audience and how they interact and how their reactions fuel each other, right? The audience and the artist together is what makes theater special, and it's what has that magic pull that's made it last the art form for as many years as it has.
Well, there's no doubt that whether you're alone in the dark or together in the dark, it's live theater is a very different experience than anything else. And part of it has to do with something you said earlier, which is that sense of community. Everybody is here to experience something, maybe for the first time, maybe for the 50th time, but it's going to be different each and every time. Um, I'm curious, 60 years, obviously you haven't been around for all 60 years, but how important has the Globe been to protecting and preserving kind of that theater culture in a prairie city? I mean, I grew up in Winnipeg, so it's not dissimilar, but uh, how important has the theater been to protecting and preserving that theater legacy?
Well, I'd say very important. We're the largest performing arts institution in the province. We're the oldest. And I think that there is a responsibility in that, in our role in the community. And it's not just to put on stories and produce theater, but it's also to nurture, to engage, to learn from the other artists, the other arts organizations in the city, in our province. But we have been sort of that stronghold that's been around for, as long as we have, and has gone through many iterations. We had Sue and Ken Kramer as artistic directors. We've had Susan Ferley, we've had Ruth Smillie, and now we have Jennifer Brewin. So each of those artists and artistic directors will bring their own version of storytelling and their own interpretation of the community with them. And, that's why artistic directors don't stay the same for 60 years, there is a journey that comes with that, and a responsibility of the institution when they're choosing that next leader to find someone that is the right fit for the community at that time. So I think that's a bit on the board as well. And our board of directors have been, really enmeshed in the community. They come from all different aspects of business and personal, professional lives, but the core, and as I've gotten to know our donors, our sponsors, our board members, our supporters, over the last few years that I've been here, the one constant is this love of the city and of the community, and how we all work together. I often say that the theater is the sort of centerpiece, the meeting point of community, commerce, and creativity, and that's the sort of the three C's that I think connect to make the engagement and what the work that I do, and so I think um, there is an excitement to being the sort of historian and in a way of, and an archival of the past 60 years of storytelling. But there's been people in Saskatchewan telling stories for ad millennium, not just the last 60 years. So we're just a touch point of a sampling of some of the stories that have been in Saskatchewan.
I think
And
you sort of touched on it with your answer there, but I'm really curious to hear you expand on, maybe this is a loaded question, and I'll ask it in two ways. You can choose how you want to answer it. Why is this important in the first place, and why is this important to the people of Saskatchewan?
Storytelling has been a really important part of the culture here as well. And the stories can't help but be impacted by the landscape. It is a very cold and brutal at times in the winter. So there's stories of safety, there's stories of togetherness and of community that are built because of that. There's a beautiful renewal that happens here in the spring, kind of unlike anywhere else. And, with our agrarian roots and the vastness of the landscape, of the skies, and the richness and fertileness of the soil, I think also really impact the type of stories that are meaningful to the people who live here. It is definitely unlike any other place I've lived or worked in the country, and it is quite integrated into the scenery and the landscape, is this aspect of storytelling and of sharing and of hosting.
So given the numbers you were quoting earlier, it seems like everybody in Regina is is attending the Globe Theater at least once a year, even if it's only at Christmas time. What can
Yeah.
you say to people who are theater lovers that are maybe traveling across the country? Like, why should they stop? Why should the Globe Theater in Regina be a destination for them to visit?
Well, I mean, the easiest answer is that we're the only one. We're the only permanent theater on the round in the country. So we're a jewel in the Canadian cultural ecosystem, but also in the heart of downtown Regina. We're rooted here. Our storytelling is really intimate and community focused and driven. I think the space is stunning. I stand on the shoulders of dreamers 10, 15 years ago. This isn't a project that happened in a heartbeat, in an overnight fever dream. It's been decades of dreaming and building and planning and fundraising and government relations and all the things that come in between. I was a child here in Saskatchewan. I grew up mostly in the prairies, but went away to school and worked most of my career in Ontario. So it was a gift to be able to be a part of the team that opened the doors on this iconic institution and cultural hub. The Globe has, because of the space, it informs the storytelling as well. And I mentioned it before, but there's a beautiful intimacy in the storytelling that is unlike anything that I've experienced across the country and across the world as well. I've been fortunate enough to travel and see art in many countries, and I think the Globe is a standout across all the places that I've traveled. So I'm very fortunate to get to work here, and it's a place that I have long admired and admired the stories and the artists who, trod the boards, as a local expression or industry expression. But yeah, come and see it for yourselves, anyone who wants to come and visit. We also love talking about theater. We love talking about our people. So if you're interested, there's tours available and all sorts of things.
So, and thank you for sharing that. But if people want more information, if they want to follow you, if they want to see what's coming up for this 26-27 season, what's
Yeah.
the best way for them to follow the work you're doing and to stay in touch with you?
We are at globetheaterlive.com on our website, on the interwebs, and on socials, we're Globe Theater Live. We're active on Instagram and on Facebook, and dipping our toes into the world of TikTok, thanks to some really excited and passionate artists.
I'll make sure that all that information is included in the notes for this episode. Heather, thank you so much for taking some time and sharing your passion and your province's passion about the jewel of a theater you have down there in downtown Regina.
Thanks so much. Hope you have a great day.
Take care.